Me? Oh, yeah. It's like an hour.
I was here at 5:30.
Just a little mouse in a corner.
Just read my book. He had to go get his readers there for a while.
I got tired.
Perfect, yeah, no guilt.
All right, are we ready to go? Looks like it. All right, let's call the meeting to order. Any additions or changes to the agenda, or we can approve it as is?
No changes here.
Okay. Can you get a motion to approve the agenda then?
A motion to approve, Janet.
In a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Any opposed? Okay, any visitors to be heard? Doesn't look like it. So we'll move on to the approval of the minutes from last meeting. Or is this just one that we missed? Okay,
I think there's probably others too, but it was still in my folder
okay.
a couple months ago.
I was starting to read through it, I'm like, I don't remember.
No,
going
it's
over
already
that.
passed, you don't have to do a second.
Motion to approve? Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Any opposed? Okay, all right, moving on, reports, the recreation manager, Trey, do you have anything?
Things I have that are not gonna be on the next section are, I'd like to open the 2025 sponsorships from October to February. So this October to next February. That way, there's a set time, then we can order the banners. Because this year I was waiting for people still coming in. And then, gonna organize the shed here soon. I'd like to maybe have an option where less access given around. That way we can keep inventory and organization in check a little bit better. And have a check-in and check-out dates. And then if they need anything else, they contact maybe me.
Somebody with a key.
Yes.
We did budget for a new gate inside there, chain link fencing gate inside that concession stand to control access a little bit better, so.
Ooh, that's a great idea.
Mm-hmm. I organize it and then it becomes a mess.
Right.
I think having the codes for everybody to use, I think that helped,
Yeah.
but I'm still answering alarm calls. You know, so on and so forth, so. And that thing is loud, I don't know if anybody knows.
It's loud.
Oh, yeah.
That thing is loud.
Yeah.
You can hear it at the school.
Then the last thing, I'd like to do baseball, softball equipment supplies and orders for that end of this year. That way we're not doing it when everyone else is doing it, so there shouldn't be any delays on anything. That's about all I have that's not on old business.
Yeah, just let me know, like, post-football season, and I'll help you go through.
Yeah, I can help too.
My schedule frees up a little more.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, everything else is on the next part
Yep.
then? All right. All right, on to,
Mr. Chairman, let me just make a note real quick. I don't know how frequently everybody takes a look at this, but we do have a performance management report that we publish every month. And one of the goals of the park board several years ago is to increase the numbers of people that are participating. And being as this is Trey's last meeting, I think it's worthwhile to review some of those results here. Back in 2022, when we first really started talking about growing these programs, we added a few other things. Minus swimming lessons, we've grown these programs by over 150 kids over the last 2 years. So they put swimming lessons in there, and you really start to see some big growth. So I think it's just worth noting that we are on the right track when it comes to growing these programs, making sure people have more access to recreational opportunities.
And stuff like the pickleball and that, I mean, that definitely helps.
Pickleball, flag football,
Volleyball.
soccer has grown to extra ages now.
Recreation program.
Yep, rec program.
Great.
Yep.
Okay. On to old business then, tournament teams.
Board members, this is a follow-up discussion from the August meeting where the board heard from coaches and parents regarding existing and future policies for tournament teams. That was mostly on baseball, though I imagine at some point we could see the same challenges with softball. For what it's worth, I think we need to take a long, hard look at whether it's in the city government's best interest to be sponsoring competitive tournament teams. I've always been clear about my recommendation here. But really, this is a matter for the park board and the city council to decide. So I do have some items here for discussion that I would encourage about the role and mission of the park board and how that translates into the programs we provide. Does local government have a reason or even have the authority under state law to sponsor competitive sports versus recreational sports? What policies need to be in place to continue sponsoring tournament teams? Then I did go through with a listing of some area communities that do have tournament teams and whether and the responsible organization for those teams. T. Harrisburg, Hartford, Del Rapids, Canton, Beersford, and Parker. So I just open it up for discussion at this time.
I know obviously it's been a headache, but I think until like the LBSA or the Baseball Association is able to take them on, I think we need to keep doing it. We don't want to lose those programs, but maybe we can start encouraging like the LBSA and the Baseball Association to try and start taking them over, get them out of our hands eventually in the next couple of years.
I don't know if cutting cold turkey is the best policy for anything like that, because only thing that's gonna hurt is the kids. If we cut cold turkey, because then it's gonna be whoever is the loudest voice is gonna take over. And we don't know if that loudest voice is gonna be what's best for the kids. I mean, then that's usually what happens.
I do think too, if we would eliminate them altogether, I think we will see a huge decrease in our baseball numbers. Because a lot of those people who are looking for that competitive like tournament team, if we don't have it locally and no one picks it up, you know, LBSA isn't gonna do it, we're not gonna do it, they're just gonna go find somewhere else to do it, I think. So I think that we would see a pretty big hit maybe to our local baseball teams. But I would agree, like, it looks like really the community standard, if you will, is, you know, the baseball associations are running them. So maybe we could partner together or work on transitioning that.
And I think so like Hartford has two separate, or maybe their baseball is completely taken over.
I think it was baseball and softball.
But they have to play rec ball like they can't play, if they want to play on the tournament team, they still have to play the other.
So it's like a
So if there's a
between the two.
partnership of some sort, that would keep the numbers where they were.
That sounds.
Larry
I
had
agree.
suggested too, that if you do this, that, you know, there be a representative from the park board on whatever board it is that oversees this.
Right.
That officially sits on there to represent the park board's
Right.
interests. And I think that's a good representation of how you could make that work, or a reason to make that work. You can make sure that, you know, you're not decreasing your recreational participation by having this completely off in its own little world, I suppose.
So the catch-22 with that too is like softball, and you said baseball, but like for softball, in order for them to qualify for state, they have to be, or play 10 league games. So they have to be in a league of some sort, so
Mhm.
hopefully that would be Lennox.
Yeah.
Well, and also with softball is, and we won't see this because you can't be on two rosters, so. Unless your city team is really good and you go to state, but otherwise, you can't be on a competitive team in a city team. It just doesn't work. They don't allow that, so.
One of the other things we'd have to figure out is facility use, though. I can't say that I don't remember remember exactly what the policy is. It's park and rec teams, other youth teams, and then the amateur teams. I think that's how we've done it in the past. Which I think still works, but we've also had discussions about making sure field use is available. So that's one of the other issues we'll have to solve as we go through this.
I don't have a problem, like, I don't remember who said it, but down the road as a possibility. I don't think it's a good, I don't think we can do it right now. I think there, you know, even whoever's doing that needs to have policies in place on how they're picking their teams and how they're, you know, all of that. Because I think if we just go, oh yeah, you guys take it over, not saying that it will be in this case, but it could be, oh, it's a group of dads, and as soon as their kids are done, now they're done. And now who takes it over, and now are we picking it up, you know, and starting it back over? So I think maybe a track record of, okay, they've been around for long enough now, and we know what their policies are, or maybe not what their policies are, but we know they have policies in place for the best interest, and then at that point, maybe you transition, but.
Because I believe the LBA, it was here, it was in place, and they kind of disbanded for a while, right? And I think that like you're saying, the city, you know, has run it for the most part for quite a while, and you just always have that stability with the city board, the park and rec board, and so parents and coaches kind of come and go in waves. I know there's a big group like they came last time, and they do a great job, and they're good teams, but those boys in those groups will be through it in 1 to 2 years. They'll be up to Legion. And then do you have, I mean, is the LBA still around then? Is there people that are willing to take it on and run the tournament teams? You don't have that continuity, potentially, would be my concern, just long term, where I guess we've been in it for a number of years now, and everything has its little hiccups and issues you gotta work through, but for the most part, it seemed like it's run pretty well. And just kept the continuity between park and rec and the tournament teams, because I don't know how you do it. If they go to, like, say they have a competitive team, 12U or 10U, then can you make the kids sign up for rec ball for sure if they're playing on a competitive team for the LBA? Sorry.
For softball, that competitive team would have to play rec ball.
So they can
So
they
we
can
would
do
have
it.
to take that tournament team and put them in rec.
So for these kids that would play, like, say LBA, you could make sure they're playing rec too, and the players, we would be able to enforce that or do that, or could they just want to play tournament ball, they don't want to mess with rec? I just don't know what that looks like, I guess, but.
Well, who just said it too, but a lot of the state tournament, you have to play 10 league games before you can get in. So if they want to play in state at all, they would have to do that, but maybe they wouldn't want to do that. There's other tournaments, I don't know.
Yeah, is that for our state, for VFW? Is that I don't know if you know, Trey. I know for the bigger one.
I don't know for baseball.
That's
I don't think it's
softball.
a state requirement for baseball, but you could, I mean, whoever would do it could put that in.
I know the bigger Class A for like the bigger towns that does state and Brandon, they require, a lot of them will play through, SEBA or whatever to be in. But I don't think VFW requires it for the baseball. I do know a couple of these, I won't name names, but just from parents and family members I know have played in a few of these that are not run by the city. They've had a lot of trouble, and one of them I know is really struggling with numbers, and a team left, and that's close to home here, so they haven't been ideal or perfect either. I know Harrisburg's had a lot of growing pains with some of their stuff as well, but so I don't know. Just from our experience, it's been pretty good overall. So I don't know if you want to mess with that or not. That's what we're trying to figure out, I guess. But
I'm glad from the outside looking in, it appears to run.
seems like it's been good. But yeah, so those are my 2
That's the
cents.
best day of my work year is the first day of school. And that's not even a joke, I'm 100% serious.
Well, and I think some of them, maybe not this size, but like the Legion coach is also maybe a leader of that group as well, and maybe even gets paid a little bit from that group in order to oversee it, and that gives someone that maybe doesn't have a personal relationship, but has a a baseball background in it. So I don't know, that would be something to look at too, is Kurt and whoever, you know, people at that higher group as, you know, because their best interest is to have these kids develop to be, you know, at their best once they're in Legion ball or whatever. So that could be something to look at too, if he'd even be interested.
It's clear as mud.
I just feel like it's, I don't know, and this is just, in my opinion, like one of our missions is to offer opportunities, right? Through Parks and Rec, sports, other activities. And so I think, to me, it is a good thing to offer this opportunity for local kids to stay local, but still be able to play on like a tournament team. So to me, you know, I'm fine with us as a board being involved, whatever capacity that might be, whether it's a partnership or whatever. But I do think there was a lot of good input and ideas last week that we could change up some rules, put some limits in. And honestly, when they're talking about like tryouts and stuff, I mean, I don't know, pick how you want to do it, I guess, you know, tell us how you want to do it.
But it's,
I
you
don't
know, 2 different years could be completely different each year. So
Yes.
And that's the thing with that is there's no perfect way to do it.
Right.
Nothing's gonna be perfect.
No.
You just have to, if your kid doesn't make it on, that's why you would have to have, you know, if they don't have tryouts, you should have with the board, you should have, you know, a commissioner and a couple other people who can then make a decision. Unbiased, not a coach from any of the teams, just people who are unbiased that are willing, you know, that's how something like that would work. And they could see, all right, that is a reasonable explanation, you know, you were on family vacation, your car broke down, you were billing a week back. Or you were sick, something, you know, legitimate, okay. You can have a tryout, or you can get put on a team if the coaches, then you can survey the coaches, is this person worthy to go on the team from what you guys think? You could do something like that. And you just have to keep the coaches out of it, because they have their best interest, period. And their kids, if their kids are playing, which if they're coaching, it usually is.
When do we have to make any sort of like decision or
Next year.
rule changes or?
And you start registration in January normally, so.
Yeah.
Before then?
November.
The sooner, I was gonna say sooner I have direction, the sooner I can start drafting whatever policy or whatever changes need to be put in place. I would stress not to change the tryout system.
Right.
It works. It works because it keeps everybody else out of it.
Yep.
And it's
Yeah.
not influenced by any outside
Right.
forces.
Yeah, no, I think you have to stay with that kind of
Yeah.
neutral people, and then just give them guidelines, like how many people are they choosing for each team? And have them maybe assign the kids to teams based on what they were really good at, pitching or catching, whatever it is.
Do you remember?
I think that would take a long time though. You got,
It's like 4.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
And it's
you've
not
got
gonna-
30 kids and every one of them wants to be a pitcher, we're gonna have to run through 30 pitchers. And then we're gonna go to catcher, and then we're gonna go, you know.
You just
I
have,
think that would
if you
be
do a
really
tryout,
tough.
you have a generic tryout where everybody throws,
Yeah.
everybody catches, everybody bats, and it's exactly the same for both groups. So that's the one thing with all the input, that was the biggest thing, was both tryouts were different.
But
The
those
same
guys
drills
have,
for everybody.
but those guys have been around baseball long enough, they're college baseball players. They know who, they
Right.
don't need a speed gun to
No,
tell whether a kid can pitch. or not.
no, but you gotta run the same drills for everybody on
Yeah.
both things.
Yeah.
Every tryout that I ever went to for anything above high school or beyond, every drill was the same for everybody.
Right,
And that's how you have to do it.
I get that, yeah.
Is there a policy in place at all right now?
Yes, there is a tournament policy.
I think that would be helpful to decide what needs to be changed, if we could look at the current.
I know that tryouts, like location too was brought up, but
You can't.
I feel like that indoors has just worked so well. I know you can't do the high pop flies or whatever, but like you mentioned, you can kind of see where kids are at by doing those basic drills and see who, it's not that hard for those guys, especially if they don't have the bias of
Right.
knowing who the kids are and the parents and stuff. And then you don't have to worry about that weather changing things. And I think some families want to know as soon as possible so they can make summer plans or whatever. If they're not on the tournament team, then that opens up their calendar. If they are, if we're waiting till late April just to get outside, starts or early May, that just really pushes it. And then you can't practice if it's nice. Yeah, because you're waiting. So I get it. I know what they're saying, but
Yeah,
it seems
because,
like
sorry.
no. It seems like the indoor thing has worked so well the last couple of years. Just don't have to worry about weather and get it done.
You know you're gonna be able to do it.
And the first tournament was before school got out.
Mm-hmm.
So just to get a couple practices in by May 1st,
Mm-hmm.
you need to
And,
get
and
it pretty quickly.
off of that, most of the competitive softball teams in Sioux Falls, like the traveling teams, they're all indoor practices, or indoor tryouts, everything's done all indoors. And some of them are really, really successful, so
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why that would be.
And I don't even know how the logistics would be, so, okay, if it's weather cancellation for this day, so then you have
Right.
a backup location, but you're gonna be paying for that location,
Right.
either way, whether you use it or not then. And then the second, you have to do it twice then, cause you almost need a main day and then like a backup
Yeah,
day,
yeah,
and a
you gotta have
second
2
day
days.
for everyone.
Yep.
So everyone has a chance to get there, so then you have to do that twice, and you have to contact everyone, whether it's indoor or outdoors. It's just, you're lining up 2 places for 2 different tryouts. And then whoever does the first one, whether the weather's good or not the second time, doesn't matter, you gotta do it the same way the second time.
Right.
And the weather could be way different.
Yes.
And it might be, yeah.
So, it's just, that's logistically.
Fewer variables indoors.
Yeah.
And I think one of the coaches or dads mentioned too last time, like, they got it like pretty much spot on for the most part.
Mhm.
They figured it out pretty well being indoors. They didn't, and he was pretty honest about that, so.
I think really if we make any changes to that process is just the number of kids who've been on a team.
Yeah,
Like, is that
it's gotta be
biggest-
lower.
The biggest thing.
Mhm.
It's really hard to play with
Right.
13,
You-
14, 15 kids on a team. And then
And I-
still get everybody in the field.
So like on a rec team, yes, but if you're doing a competitive team, that's, all it's gonna do is make somebody mad, because somebody's not gonna play.
Yeah.
Most of them we saw this last summer, at least for the boys, were like 11. That was like the,
Right.
kind of the norm.
We saw 12.
Did you? 10U maybe a little more.
Yeah, maybe, it could have been that grade level or that age.
Well, and I know on the softball side, 12 is usually the magic number. They always bring with, just, somebody needs to, in, one of those people's usually really fast.
Thank you.
So you gotta run or you can throw in,
Mm-hmm.
Looking to work tonight.
Next steps. Got the wrong one here. No, you got it. Another mention. Move it on.
So it's
For
still good.
14U, sorry.
Oh, that's what I was
So you're gonna say, so 14U, it states 11 to 12 athletes, but that doesn't apply to 10 or 12?
It's gotta be older because we don't have the 14U anymore with the city, right? It's,
True.
Yep, and that's with Legion now.
But I think you could move that
That
to
You could easily use
the
it.
other.
Yeah, 11 to 12 needs
And
to
that
be-
gives that wiggle room of going to 11 or possibly 12 on certain years. Or just saying that that will generally be at that.
Anybody know off the top of their head if the school district has a policy for team selection?
In terms of,
Athletics, anything?
It's,
I don't think we-
no, everyone makes the
every,
team.
well, no, not every, oh,
Yeah, they do.
everybody can be part of the program, but it doesn't, you're not guaranteed a spot on the team, like, you don't get a varsity spot or get a, you know.
At junior high.
Right, junior high, yes.
But that's all we're talking
Yeah.
about, right?
So what do you, yeah,
We're not talking about older kids.
right, so junior high, but the, and it still isn't, not everybody plays. Because I ref a ton of junior high stuff, and I see a whole bunch of kids that don't ever see the court, ever. So,
Would you say, I've never noticed that.
yeah, so I just did volleyball this last week, and there was a handful of girls that didn't see the court.
And it might be, depend, because there's an A and a B game, and maybe if they're playing a team with only one game, that might be the case. But I coached for a long time.
I've
And
seen it a lot in the last,
Even when we played Parker, we got 21 kids in against Parker's
yeah,
7.
last 2-3 years, I've seen it a lot, but not everybody plays.
So,
I've refed it.
well, but in basketball, I mean,
Basketball,
I'm not-
volleyball,
well,
I-
but he
If
coached
there's
basketball.
two games, everyone got on the court.
Yeah,
Does the high school have a policy?
I doubt it. That's where the
yeah,
cuts.
the coach picks.
Maybe not the cuts, but like ninth grade, you can be on the team, you're not guaranteed to play. You know, 10th grade, again, you can be on the team. Once you get to where you're out of JV age though, you might not get a jersey in varsity.
I think there's some applicability there. I mean, when we talk about having an opportunity to play, we would still guarantee that through the recreational teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you wanna play at a higher competitive level, these are the tryouts, this is the team,
Yep,
take it or leave it.
yep, I agree, that's what it should be.
Like, for like
But-
a tournament team, you're saying, yeah.
Recreational team, everybody, we don't, anybody can join.
Mhm.
That's consistent with our mission statement, providing opportunities for recreation.
And the tournament team tryout is voluntary as well, obviously, right? Because
Yep.
there were some kids, actually decent ball players, they just didn't want to play tournament. And so they just played rec and I'm like, geez, these guys, you know, a couple pitchers and stuff, but for 12U, but, so it's not like they have to do the tryout, they could just play rec.
Yeah, and I know there's a handful of parents who are anti-tournament team, where their kids are, enjoy the summer, sports aren't everything, and so we have some of that too, so I mean, it's,
I think kind of rounding back to the issue from last month, we probably need to add some sort of verbiage about pickup players.
Even just if it's a process that we go through.
Yeah, can there just be like
Pickup,
alternates and then that's like a
That's-
pool for both teams or whatever to pick from
that's
and
what I would think.
first come,
They-
first served,
Yeah.
you know?
So-
Be encouraged to practice with the teams too.
Oh,
at
yes.
minimum.
Yes.
If they tried out, I think they should be welcome at practice.
Yes.
That doesn't mean they're gonna.
right, doesn't mean they travel, but they, yeah.
Well, you would want them to, you'd think, that would be best for your team.
So you'd start, okay, as a coach that needs an extra kid because someone's gone, so who do you contact first? The recreation
It would
manager?
have to be the recreation manager, would be
Okay.
the- and that would be the say of it, that would be it. Because you don't have the ability for that person to have to try to contact a ton of other people, that would have to be the person.
Cause Trey, you kinda manage the rosters, right, just overseeing and alternates and stuff or whatever.
Then there's a question, if there's an A team and a B team, so then are you looking at the people who didn't make either team as then your practice players that would get pulled up? You're not pulling someone up from the B team onto your A team, your choice?
I would say you move them up
I
from
think
the
you
B
need to
team.
clarify
Yeah,
that.
yes.
It's,
And then the
and
B
then
team
they
takes
fill
the
in their
alternate.
roster with
Yeah.
the extra.
But if they're both playing, then the A team would have to pick from the alternate list. But if the B team is not playing, then they can pull from the B team.
So you're not taking players
Right.
while you're in the middle of a tournament.
Because that's one thing that was brought up last time, is that one team didn't play, so then that's why they pulled from the B team
Yeah.
instead of the alternate list,
Yeah,
because the B team wasn't playing, and that was a contentious issue.
I think the head coach contacted the head coach of the B team, he said it was okay, so it worked out.
And that's what I told them to do.
Yeah.
Okay it with the other coach first.
But, okay, so then, is there a rule, do we need a policy in place that that's gonna happen if someone is
Probably-
gone?
probably-
Or are we just allowing them to pick up someone?
We need to put something down. We have to have something, so it's,
I think down to a certain number
Yeah.
or something for sure, the concrete
Well,
answer.
so for example, like, we had, I think 11 girls on our softball roster for this last year, but state allows you to pick up to 3 pickup players. So I just talked down 3 girls, cause I was like, I'd rather have extras. It gets hot, someone gets overheated, everybody on the team was fine with that. I treated those girls just like I did my own girls, they played just as much, they batted just as much. I told them they didn't start this game, they'd start the next game, and parents all seemed to really appreciate that. And the girls that we picked up, even though they weren't on our summer team or even in the Lennox program, like, they have to have a reason to want to show up too. Like, if you're like, hey, just come sit on the bench and watch everybody play, oh, if we need you, we'll stick you in, but you waste your time, your money, and your gas to get here. You know, I don't feel like that's fair either.
And that would be I agree with that, because in here somewhere, we're asking the families to give up their summer of these 5 tournaments, but then if they're not gonna play, we're sticking it out, but really, if you're not gonna play them, then why show up? Like, that would be my thing.
Yeah.
So that's where I think if you made the team, at least, you gotta have a chance at something. It doesn't have to be equal by any means, but a little bit here and there, give them a chance to have some success, and maybe the next year that success will build onto something. But,
Well, this was with our rec team.
Yes.
I mean, it
It
wasn't.
was rec, it
Oh, that
wasn't
was
like,
rec.
it
It
wasn't a
wasn't
tournament
okay.
team. I mean, if it was a tournament team, I probably would have picked up 3, but you never know with young kids, so.
I know best practice, just kind of what I've seen them do the last couple of years with a couple of different coaches is they've played everybody and batted the roster in every tournament except the state tournament. In the state tournament, it was like a couple games. It was on bracket play like the last day or second to last day. So I know the coach last year that coached 10U that my son was on, and this year the head coach at 12U, they did that. So that last day of state in that bracket, it was play to win, they played 9, and you might not bat, or it was, but that was like 2 to 3 games of the whole summer. And that seemed really fair, and if you have a roster of 11 or max 12, then you don't feel like it's so hard to maybe get
Right.
back to the top of the lineup.
It kind of naturally happens.
Yes.
So then that.
And they've still had a lot of success and, been really good teams, so, it seems like that's just, as opposed to, like, you're going 5 weekends and you don't even know if you're gonna play.
yeah,
Five, at any of those tournaments, that just doesn't seem quite as good experience or development for those players. But yeah, it's worked well, and the teams have been successful, and everybody's been pretty happy, so I think it's been a good solution.
and that's where I was even thinking maybe, okay, so if you got a 12 max, you roster that, even championship games of regular tournaments, maybe we call that off, you don't have to. And then in the state tournament, even the bracket play, you don't do any of those, unless you want to. But then that gives everyone at bats that it gives a lot of, data for the end of the year tournament on, okay, it's pretty easy to see, here are my top 9 guys. Everyone got 20 at-bats or whatever it was, 25 at-bats through the year. It's easy to figure that out. And as a Legion coach or as a higher up coach, I would think that's gonna be more beneficial than playing 9 or 10 kids the whole time, because who knows if someone moves, who knows if someone doesn't enjoy baseball anymore.
Or gets hurt.
Or, yeah, gets hurt, and all of a sudden, your team isn't the same, and we left some kids behind.
I think it'd be nice to have, outside of state, all tournaments besides state, every kid get at least 1 inning in the field and 1 at bat, minimum.
I think that's great, because that still fits with our mission.
And that's not gonna, these are 10 and 12-year-old kids, so
Right.
let's keep a little bit of perspective too, and I don't think that that's gonna make or break a game.
No, and it isn't the World Series.
And you mean per game? Or, yeah, per game, right? Yes, but at least in every game.
No. Because sometimes that's all grandma wants to see. You see it in the field.
And 1 at bat a game could show that they're getting a hit 2 out of 3 times.
And they make it pretty simple with the substitution rules now, like, okay, put a kid in, let him play that inning, get that at bat, and then you sub another kid right back in for him. And it works out pretty well in that way. That's the way the rule's there, I'm pretty sure, so, I mean.
If you have that in the guidelines, and, you know, parents who are hoping their kid's gonna play and invited grandpa and grandma, then they know he's gonna get in, and then they know at state he might not, if he's kinda on the bubble there, so they don't, you know, if they don't wanna show up, they don't have to, they don't have all that. And why didn't he, you know, Johnny get the bat and all this, so I think it solves a lot of those issues.
Well, and if we provide all of these things that we're talking about up front, black and white, this is what it is, this is what our tournament team, that the Parks and Rec, it's up front, everyone knows, I know you're looking at me like that, like, sure. But it. we
I
can
am
say-
looking at you.
Yes,
It
but
helps to set the expectations
Yes.
early on. I think we did that like from the get-go. Like one of my first messages is, do you wanna go to this tournament? Here's what my plan would be. And so you just lay it, remind them over, and I think I probably beat the horse with that one, but.
And then you say, the expectations of these tournament teams were laid out from, you didn't have to try out. If you're looking for something more competitive, you're gonna have to go elsewhere, like, this is what we've, and these are the reasons why, so.
I really think it's just like a couple, it's like players on team, how many players, playing time, and then I don't know, it's
Or, what is
Yeah,
that pool?
alternates,
Alternates.
the tryout, it's
Yeah.
like 4 or 5 things
That
you got.
process.
You got it pretty much, and then it's the gray that, it's where stuff festers.
Yep.
Like, you
Yeah.
just have it pretty straightforward.
I know there was a question that got brought up too by someone last time about the 12U versus 10U, and if their kid's kind of on the bubble or having an 11U team, is that something that needs to be clarified?
We don't want, if you have an 11-year U team, it's for kids who are good 1 year. You have one group of 11-year-old kids that 1 year, and then it messes everything else up. You gotta just
I
stay
honestly
with
think
Asking
if you're going to have tournament teams, I honestly think we need to just limit it to 1.
Yeah, we just limit it.
There's
It is-
one team.
You just gotta, because you're gonna have your ebbs and your flows.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
with not
And
much.
you have to just play it down the middle.
Most cities our size, I don't think, have 11 units, they go on their own or
Right.
something, and then
Right.
the other thing with that is they don't, VFW doesn't have the odd years, so then you're going, you have to go to the
Right.
bigger state tournament. And yeah, and you're pulling kids probably from, they could be 10U or could be 12U when we're at a town this size.
Yep.
I get it, I get why maybe 1 year would be nice, but probably not ideal overall.
I think maybe you were referring to him talking about his kid trying out for both teams.
Right, having an opportunity to try out for both.
For rec,
Which-
try.
Which there would be no rule against that, right? There's no reason he couldn't try out for 10U and 12U.
We could just play.
There's firm birthday cutoffs for.
Well, so,
but-
but he might wanna play, he's young enough to play 10U, but his
But he
friends
might
are all
be
12U
good
because
enough.
he's going
So
into
it's
that.
even
He's just young for his age.
5th grade, but wants, and is still young enough to play
We-
10U.
So he could
We
try
had
out for
one-
both, and he
Cause like-
doesn't make the older team, but then he's still trying out for the younger team, so he's still on it.
Don't we have a birthday cutoff for each
Yes, but you are.
but you
To
can move
play
up.
out,
You can play
yeah,
out.
you can
Just
play
not-
out.
You can't play it down.
Right.
So in the past, I think they've, well, anyone who tried out made it. But I think we had told them, and maybe it wasn't even me, or like I wasn't even on here, but before I got there, I think it was, if you wanna try to play on the higher up, that's your team then.
You don't get to
You
play,
could only
you can't
pick
play
one,
on
But I
both.
don't know,
No,
If you try up,
So
yeah.
what you're talking
That
about
was
is essentially
the
hedging your
question.
bets.
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
I think his
But-
question was like, if he tried out for the other team, didn't make it, now he doesn't get to play on tournament team at all, because he didn't try out for the younger one.
Yeah,
right,
so you kinda had to choose.
Yeah.
That would be that kid's choice and that family's choice. If they wanna take their child and try to have them play the upper, then that's their family's choice, they have to live with it.
But why, what is, I'm just curious, what harm does it do in letting them if they wanna try out for both? If
Because,
he's good enough to play 12U,
but you're gonna get a lot of kids who are not good enough, who are gonna wanna follow that same track, and you're gonna have tryouts that take 3 days instead of 1 day. Because everybody's gonna wanna try out for 12U and not make it, then everybody's gonna wanna try out for 10U.
So
And then
then we
and that's why
probably
they do that.
Should just say you need, if you're gonna try out, you need to try out for your,
The team that if you make it or don't make it, yeah, there's no fallback.
pick or choose.
Yeah, pick or choose. Otherwise, trials will take forever.
I think that's what was always the last couple of years, you pick which one you're gonna try out for and you stick with it or whatever.
that's how, yeah.
I think that
Usually that's pretty
touches
good.
on-
If you're having your kid try out, you usually have a pretty good idea they're gonna make it. I mean,
Yeah.
it isn't, you're not, so this,
Yeah.
Is that enough direction, Nate?
I can get us started.
he's only got one paddle though, he can go on surface.
Yeah. He's gonna like misplace all the notes and everything.
Well, that's the great
It's not
thing
gonna
about the
work,
videos.
sorry.
I'll go back and watch the video next
Oh,
week and
okay,
like,
yeah.
okay, that was that, and, yeah. I even have timestamps in my notes, so.
Okay, do we have anything else on tournament teams? Okay,
Let's move on.
we'll move on to the Parks Master Plan.
Board members, you've given direction to work on preparing an updated master park plan. This is just an update on the process. A work order, an estimate has been requested from Stockwell, but in the meantime, they were able to share their master plan. I think it's the draft, I don't know that Dells has approved this yet, but that's included in your packets for your review. This is probably a little bit more than what we'd be looking for. It's very comprehensive, and really takes a look at the land use issues, but judging by the size alone, that should tell you about what they looked at here. Lots of surveys, lots of community engagement, which is some of the stuff we really want. And they had some outside agency samples, those surveys, for example. So, I think read through it, review it, understand better what it is you're looking for when this work order comes through, because when I get that work order, I'm going to review it, and I'm going to ask the park board to review it and make sure these are the activities that you want to occur under this work order to create this new master plan. And so having an idea of what other communities have done and what the possibilities are, I think is really important as you prepare for that discussion.
Wow,
It's a lot.
that's a lot.
It also costs a lot. Number 2 ours will not be quite as comprehensive.
But it generally starts with a survey of some sort, it looks like, and that's what.
If I remember right, they did a community input gathering meeting. They had some renderings and some ideas and just, who was at the, you guys were at the CIP meeting, very similar to that. You're basically putting notes down, making notes of what people mentioned. Here's some ideas, you know, if 50 people mention we need a splash pad. That's one of those things that's gonna be a red alarm as something that people really want. And then there's surveys that we can do. It's pretty easy to distribute those now through the app and other means.
So you start with a concept kinda, or that meeting, and then start surveying, and then from there, they kinda take over. And
Yeah, I think you're going to want a lot of discussion from this board though, on what you get out of those meetings and what direction you're getting from the community on what folks want to see. No, it's not just gonna be that one meeting and then they go and take all that data, right? There's going to be several discussions with the park board about, you know, is this where you wanna go? Is there anything missing? Is there something you want us to add to this? It's not a short process either, guys. I mean, this is a year-long process to do something along this scale, so.
Yeah, when does this start then, or when would it potentially?
It would probably start sometime next year.
Okay.
I don't anticipate having a work order completed for this year. Stockwell's also the city engineer for North Sioux City, so they've been spending a lot of their time on things like Lake Shore Drive and other issues down there that they need to work on and need a lot of help on. So I would expect this maybe sometime this fall, and then we'll start reviewing that work order and go through it. So.
okay.
Light reading, I know.
I call it
Thank
home.
That'll be good to get ideas, or, you know, like, actually have an idea of
It's a really
what
solid-
you're trying to make, though.
Yeah. There's some other stuff that Stockwell's done with City of Sioux Falls. We use this because obviously Dallas is a pretty similar community size-wise, but they did a similar plan for a family park on the west side of Sioux Falls, so. When you talk about parks and rec spaces, they've got, David is one of their landscape architects and did a lot of work on Falls Park. Has a lot of experience and really knows his stuff when it comes to this type of work. So we're excited to see what he can work on for us.
Perfect. Any questions, anything else? All right, we'll move on to the LBSA batting cage.
Taylor, do you want to present your updated
Sure.
ideas?
Yes. So Matt put in a lot of time and research into looking at different types of foundations that we could use for the batting cage. There's some conversation had about possibly just pouring like a concrete border and then hiring somebody to come in and put like rock down. The turf would be installed over the top of it. That was quite a bit more expensive. The installation for the turf over a rock foundation was over $15,000. We could get free turf from Mammoth. When they go replace turf in a facility, then they pretty much cut up and give away the old stuff. It's still got 3 to 5 year lifespan. We're like, gosh, every 3 to 5 years you'd be spending 15 grand to have new turf installed in this kind of foundation. So then we kind of went back to the solid pad idea, which Jeevers had given us a quote for 12 grand for the two slabs, or it's one slab but it would hold 2 cages. And then essentially you could just have any general contractor, city staff,
It's just cooling it down.
Yep, adhere the turf, the free turf right
It's
to the
not hard.
concrete. Yep, so it'd be a lot more cost efficient going that way. And so it takes off about 10 grand, I think, for the overall cost. So that was our preference. Overall, we are asking the city for $15,000. It looks like there was also, I forgot to mention, there was also some repairs to the baseball dugouts on the big field that the school had asked for some assistance with, so we kind of lumped that all into one project. I think our total was like 32,000.
What was that on?
It's on my written proposal, but I don't think that's here. It's the last page. I've got my phone. I don't see it here on the printout. So the big field dugout, benches and step repairs that looks like need to be done. The school had given estimate for $3,000 to have those repaired, and they were asking the LBSA for assistance with those. So we just kind of lumped it all into one big project that we'd try and get hammered out yet this fall, was the hopes. So we came in at $32,000 for the total project cost, and then we were asking the city for help for $15,000. That wouldn't be sliding, we would take care of anything over that, but that was what we came up with.
But that would finish two
Two.
cages,
Two
cages.
because that last time we were talking just
That one
one
or
maybe.
two, and we're like,
Okay.
why not just do
They
two?
found a different supplier.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, I should have mentioned that too, so this
So I've
forest
heard.
scheme, yes, on the second bid there, and this company's out of Sioux Falls, so that was the other problem with the last bid, I think it was, Batting Cages Inc. They wanted to charge us like $4,700 for shipping these batting cages here. And then we're like, we don't know how long it'll take, we don't know the lead time, where are we gonna store them, we don't get them in time to have this done yet before it snows, so those were all things we looked over before putting together this proposal.
$600 in freight sounds a lot better.
Yeah, so this is
And
option
I can
two.
save you $600 on sales tax too, if we got that included in there.
Option two, correct, then, right, the solid for the
It's
32.
Yes, so it'd be the solid core, and then in the red box down there on the bottom, you can see where it said, I think it was the red box, or right above the red box, where it says, single is the 95.94 versus the 16,704. So that's the double page cost. So you just replace.
We'll need to do the gravel, it looks like, for Javers.
I didn't have that one until I sent it to you, so. I don't
And
have
joint
that.
sealing. And basketball.
Just something I've been wondering about and I forgot, and it's not, nothing to do with this, but you were talking about the big field. Are they putting a new net on that? Okay,
Yeah.
I hadn't heard
Commercial
that.
club's taking care of that. I think the
Okay.
city's gonna provide like $800 or something.
Okay.
I don't have a final tally from Oracle yet. but-
Okay, that's what it looked like, so,
Yeah,
okay.
that's something they had been raising money for.
Is that on the old cage you're talking about?
No, it's on the first baseline.
First.
Lincoln
Gotcha.
Street.
So it'll be the same height and everything as the current
I
net
think so, yeah.
or something, okay. Anyway, all right, back to this.
How soon do you need?
The LBSA has enough money to start wheels in motion. We could just pay for the concrete and get those things going, so that way it could be done before it freezes. So we've talked about that, but obviously we still need permission to move
Yeah,
forward.
and we gotta figure out a location. I don't have a number in front of me. I can't remember how much we put into the park board budget for discretionary.
We added to it, I know.
We did, but we had to pull it back
Yeah.
again.
Huh?
We had to pull it back down
Oh.
to get to our final number. So that might be a potential use next year. We can also look at where we're actually, Parks and Rec overall this year is, and the general fund is gonna be over. I'll have to look at where we're at in 201. I'm not remembering off the top of my head, but there might be some options yet this year as well, so. If that's the direction that the park board wants to go, I would recommend a motion to recommend to the city council that you spend that. And then I'll start to work to figure out how we're gonna.
Well, and I know off of using a rock batting cage and a concrete batting cage, rock batting cages are not, they get lumpy. They get I do not like them at all. If you were gonna have a not concrete, you would have to have like the chewed up tire under, you know, like you would, otherwise, if you have that, especially with the weather we get here and the raising and lowering, that concrete would be the way to go all the way. I don't think that's a smart move.
Sarah, do you remember what they had over those in Sioux Center? The stuff that the mayor sent over.
I think it was Red Rock.
Crushed.
I thought he said it was crushed red rock.
Then they put the turf over it though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But then
And how long does that,
The
the
turf-
good turf last?
if we bought new turf, I think for the cages, the quote we got was like $6,000 for the turf. And then I wanna say they said the life was 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, they usually say 10 years probably on turf. That's why they usually pull it out, why you get the 3 to 5.
But it was $6,000 for one cage, so I don't, it would be $12,000 for two.
Yep, so the cost benefit isn't there.
Yeah, Matt did a ton of research, like we spent almost 3 hours the other night going over everything, so he was very thorough.
It would be nice if, I guess if they're gonna move forward on this, to have it done before winter, so
Yes.
you could actually utilize them
Yes.
once it gets nice out, as opposed to having to wait to get them.
Because you never know when you're gonna be able to get at it in the spring.
Yeah, if we're going that way, or we're trying to move
Yeah.
forward.
Can you remind, when does the budget start for the city?
January 1st.
Okay, so this would be for next year's,
And
Budget,
or
or do we
depends
have-
what we have left.
do we have money this year yet, or? And
I can always find
I
something.
can't remember where we put it, I guess.
But you said you guys have the money for the concrete to get that going?
Yes, but you would wanna get the posts, and they do the installation, it's included, but you would wanna get those set this year too. So I think, and they required a deposit, I wanna say it was $5,000.
These are the pictures that we got from Sioux Center.
Those never came through to me, by the way.
Well, they didn't?
I looked 2 or 3 times, and I was like, man, maybe he forgot to send them.
So these are full concrete, or they're not?
Well, they're full they're concrete edge, and then
Some rock?
it looks to me like they've got probably that, I suppose it could be gravel, but you remember it being pink quartzite?
I think he said it was like, yeah.
Crushed
crushed,
quartzite?
Yeah, they use that for.
Which would be very similar to what we use for road base. So it's the fine stuff, it's not the quarter-inch
stuff.
quartz.
I think a lot of the ones that get lumpy are gravel.
The gravel,
The
yeah,
gravel.
that, you could pack that, the gravel's,
Now, do they do this for drainage, for rain, is that why? Because if it rains on concrete, would it pool, or you'd have to worry about heavy, like, I don't know how that works.
That you just graded appropriately. I mean, if you put a crown on it and make sure it's full of
Yeah,
rain,
it's not-
make sure you don't have a lip to deal with.
Be good to go.
I mean,
It's still permeable, just like a gravel road, but if there's a crown to it too, so.
But going right on cement is normal?
Yes.
I mean, okay,
most of the places, we went with the high school team for softball, most of the places we went were, it was all like Dakota Valley concrete. Most, I mean, and they have 4 cages. You know, so most of the places, it's all concrete.
Yeah.
That's the standard.
That's what I've seen too.
Yeah.
And that was our thought too, is the long term, like, you can keep going back to Mammoth and asking them for free turf. You just gotta transport it, so every 3 to 5 years, you can
3 to
grab
5 years,
some
we
more.
go get Sailor and put it on our car.
Exact, I have a car trailer. It'll fit.
I do have a good buddy from college that is like the Mammoth, like local guy, like sales guy. So we'd have, maybe Matt's already got a connection too, but if we ever need to get in touch with somebody for turf or whatever, he'd be a guy. I mean, he's easily
Awesome.
get us.
Well, that's
some
even
turf.
better.
Yeah.
Maybe they would pay us to come and take it.
I like the way you're thinking.
You also want to do our baseball field at the same time.
Exactly. Sure, what's your
sounds
own?
fun,
And the football field.
all right. Does anyone else have any questions, or does anyone want to
The
make
kind of with the batting cages, like, so the area we're thinking then is right off of right field by the power pole where the fences got moved in from. Is that,
I think when he showed it on the map, it was kind of, we'd run them diagonally, or like parallel to the fence.
Yes.
Where the other cage is now. So because he talked long-term, we could squeeze 3 of them in there. 'Cause-
okay, so
Yeah.
the same spot as where the other cage is then?
Yes, you would just line 3 more of them up in there.
Well, and so then we just would wanna make sure we got power out there.
Because there's power
And
on
there
that
is-
scoreboard and that
Oh, okay.
post, yeah.
Okay, well, then that's perfect. Second question, right, so then you go right down that slope and you got the end of that football field and you all got that grass right there.
Mhm.
Why do we not tear that all up and make that acre line and two sets of bases there? And you could run 2 sets of infield right there. You don't need full fields for teams to do an infield practice. Because that's our biggest issue is field time. You could set up 2 infields. Most of these little teams, you don't need grass. And there's plenty of room and that's not taking away from the soccer.
Caution you to be careful how committed you get to certain setups if we're gonna do a master plan though.
Right, that's why I'm just,
Yeah.
well, and this would just be gravel on top. It would just be like egg line on top, so it's not a permanent, it's easy removable. You just stick some bases on. That's why it would not, but that way you could run people through infield 1, infield 2.
More so like a temporary solution.
Just a temporary
until we have
solution until we
long-term
figure it out, right. Because that's, because there are people are in that football field doing softball practice, and that's not realistic for the kids. But if you have just a couple, you just throw down some dirt for now, I think that would be something to think about too.
So the spot is to the northwest of Current, or what were we thinking?
That's north, right?
Yes, up is north.
I feel like Matt said they would run this way.
Northeast to southwest,
Oh, like this?
parallel to the fence.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
That sounds
So like
good.
Yes.
the fence panel down, but one,
Remember that fence is right here.
This way I'm guessing is what.
Yes.
I thought that's what he
Yes,
said.
and then you
Yeah.
could line 3 of them up in there.
That makes sense.
Kind of the
What
top
we'll
of the hill.
do, is maybe, assuming the council approves this when they do, we'll probably just have Stockwell stake out what needs to be done there. Call for locates and all that jazz, and never skip locates.
Well, I motion to approve our part of the batting cage budget.
Second.
okay, we got a motion and a second, all in favor of putting 15,000 towards the batting cages?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right, that looks good, that'll be good for our teams, I think.
There's a lot of kids will use it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'll be surprised how many kids will actually use a good batting cage. Those things will be used all the time.
All right, last thing, concessions.
Board members, you have expressed interest in discussing a plan for concessions in 2025. So this is just a return item for discussion and direction on that for baseball and softball in 2025. It's our intent to obtain a recommendation from Park Board for final consideration by the city council later this year. So item was scheduled for tonight, so we have a final tally of revenue and expense for the year for 2024, $675 net gain.
God, that's just not.
Yeah. So, discussed a little bit more with, Mayor and I talked yesterday about some ideas. He's volunteered in there too, and he said it's kind of it's kind of disorganized in some cases. And we wonder, number one, if adding a point of sale system would help with organization of inventory and processes. We could probably do that fairly simply. We already use it at the pool. We just have to get some sort of internet connectivity over there. And then, which we do have a quote for anyway, throughout the park. And then whether staffing it somehow would make a big difference. And we could probably, I didn't get this soon enough to take a good look at what that would cost. You're looking at a few hours a night for each field for 2 months, give or take, 4 nights a week. It might not hurt to take a look at that and see if we could, if you look at the pool, $6,000-7,000 in that game. We got somebody there all the time, we've got a system that keeps inventory, we know what we need to replace every day, every 2 days, whatever it might be. There's no guessing, there's no counting, stuff doesn't just go missing, which is a big concern of mine.
Yep.
I think this has, I think it at least deserves some research before just saying, let's go ahead and bid it out.
I would agree.
And then, and you're talking with that is then hiring a couple kids in the summer to be, yeah, oh yeah, I think that's great. At least think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you need a motion for that?
Does everybody agree that we should look at that?
Yes.
Just giving some direction
Okay.
on, yeah, this is worthwhile.
Unanimous.
Yes.
Okay. And that's all.
All right, I motion to adjourn.
And second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Sarah,
I looked at Sarah, so I'm calling it for her.
She was quick, she was in there, she said,